Jordan Peterson is known for his love of controversies, or at least that's what it looks like. And this time, the clinical psychologist and author sparked a new debate on Twitter, where he downright criticizes the Australian flagship airline Qantas's Welcome to Country message. And in this video, we're going to tell you all about the welcome message, the controversial tweet, and everyone's opinions on it. So stay tuned. First off, Jordan Peterson called out the company publicly on Twitter. While we think the controversy seems to find its way around Jordan Peterson, his fans claim that it's because he's clear-headed, and instead, it's the society that needs help. As for his critics, who keep piling up, they think it's mostly because his views are outdated and just offensive at this point. And while that's definitely a popular opinion, it's a debate for another time. Right now, let's focus on his critique of Qantas, because just a few days ago, he took it to Twitter and said, "I could really do without the land acknowledgement propaganda delivered to me by a corporate behemoth, Qantas. I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels that way." And that wasn't all. He even went on to tell them to stick to flying and making money, instead of giving out moral lessons that he doesn't think he needs. And obviously, if there's a controversial opinion on Twitter, fans are bound to jump in. One Twitter user agreed with him, saying that unless the land is given back, land acknowledgements are simply just taunts, to which Peterson replied by saying, "Hypocritical to the ultimate degree," mocking the company's need to be civil as they keep the land. Following Peterson's thread was another user who had a contradictory opinion instead. They said it was way beyond the clinical psychologist's domain of competence. And that's not all. The Twitter user even pointed out that the recognition of traditional owners is a pretty common practice followed in the Australian political spectrum and isn't just propaganda. Following up, fans had quite a lot to say about his tweet. Adding to the list, a Sydney-based entrepreneur, Matthew Brown, said that while acknowledgements are more of a legal formality for many organizations at this point, he also believes that a welcome to the country when entering Australia from anywhere else in the world is definitely the most appropriate and respectful occasion that the national carrier could use. On the other hand, another Twitter user jumped in, asking for an explanation for the tweet. While they were pretty neutral about it, they also said it's an acknowledgement of the country's history and traditional owners. And if we're being honest, is there really anything wrong with respecting history? On top of that, another user said that acknowledgement is just the first step to a bigger structural action plan. So, as you just saw, many Twitter users lent their support to the Canadian author, adding more to the tweet, while others were tired of his controversial remarks. Many even talked about how it was just a nice step. But today, every organization fears the repercussions of every move at any remotely official event in Australia. What's more, here's the message that stirred up the controversy. Alright, so the acknowledgement of country message is right there in every safety video you're going to watch before all Qantas flights. Here, the airline talks about its cultural inclusion in the attempt to foster a shared national identity where Australians can be proud of their Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander heritage. Adding to that, they said that as the national carrier, they're positioned to connect people to the world's oldest living cultures that we need to revive, and that can be either through their domestic networks or even international networks. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures are crucial to the spirit of Australia, and the airline is trying to emphasize it throughout the customer's journey. Coming up, here's what Josh Sepps had to say. Now, when all of this started, Qantas hadn't responded to his tweet directly. On the other hand, in the middle of a conversation a few months ago on the Uncomfortable Conversations podcast, host Josh Sepps also talked about the Welcome to Country statements, and he seemed to think that this was all just embedded in the Australian cultural ethos rather than the American one. It's the idea that you don't just do it because you have to, but also because you hope it achieves something. But think about it. It's a fresh perspective on an issue that has been ongoing long enough now. Picture this. Whether it's a game that non-Indigenous people are playing to avoid reckoning with the actual theft of the land, or just the idea that they'd rather avoid dealing with the real disparities of income and quality of life, you can think of it as more of a precursor. In fact, Josh said that it might just be an important step on the journey toward true racial justice. At the same time, it can also end up being nothing more than a distraction, and he's not the only one conflicted over this. Having said that, it's a difficult topic to talk about because you can even come off as dismissive towards the concerns of Indigenous Australians, so you've got to be very careful. Not to mention, a special guest on the show shared their views too. On top of that, the guest, Tyson Yunkaporta, a researcher, writer, and even a traditional woodcarver, had something to say. As a senior lecturer in Indigenous knowledges at Deakin University, he said that Peterson's narratives are just about wrapping the core of truth in severe layers of lies and keep spinning it. While he's right about the basic motivational stuff about cleaning your room and being nice to people, he's become a sort of mentor for many young men out there. But that also means he's a huge influence, and that's exactly why he's got a great following. Adding to that, Yunkaporta also talked about how there was a lot of window dressing in Australia. In fact, it's as if every single problem in society is just the result of bad politics and Peterson's bad opinions that he doesn't hesitate to share with the world. Moving on, on, Peterson isn't too hopeful about Musk's leadership with Twitter. The psychologist and author said Twitter is still working even after CEO Elon Musk had massive layoffs. Think about it. Thousands of people lost their jobs, and everything at the company is still just like it was. In fact, Peterson says we will see whether he can clean up the social media company entirely. Adding to that, he even said he knows a lot of people who work with Musk and really seem to admire him, and it seems like the evidence clearly indicates that not only does he have a good eye, but he's also capable of learning. To be honest, that's not the most shocking opinion we've heard about Musk so far. Having said that, the clinical psychologist is waiting to see just how many boundaries the Twitter CEO is willing to push for his experiments and whether he's going to learn anything from them. But he can't wait to see if Musk is going to clean up Twitter or not. Not to mention, Jamie Dimon said the same thing a few months ago. First, he seems to be a fan of the $44 billion Twitter takeover, but he said the same thing. He hopes Musk can clean up Twitter. And if we rewind to the court case and the legal chaos, didn't Musk refuse to sign the deal because of all the bots on the site?
To produce more cash than we have spent. And have positive retained earnings.
Well, the JP Morgan CEO says he really needs to look into eliminating anonymous accounts from the site. All in all, they're echoing the very same concerns from the start, and we gotta admit, they're not wrong. But with all the changes Musk has planned for the social media company, we don't think this will be the biggest of problems, especially considering it was the Tesla CEO's primal concern to begin with. And frankly, it's hard to ignore the number of spam accounts on the platforms. Instead, the company needs to give users a lot more control over their recommendation algorithms. Finally, Musk has a lot of things planned for the social media platform.
So, yeah, I would say probably mild, moderate recession, maybe 18 months.
Some changes are going to come in right away, while others are a part of a long-term strategy because, according to Musk, the company was poorly run, hated controversial speech, and literally overrun with spam. And now that he's here, he's ready to change everything. It started with the massive layoffs that came in sooner than we expected, climbing its way on the hierarchy to director and vice president jobs. On the other hand, he's also in talks with some capitalists and investors, but their discussions are pretty confidential regarding Twitter's product strategy. On top of that, he's also thinking about bringing back memories with the revival of Vine that Twitter gained in 2012. If anything, it started the trend of short-form videos and snackable content that made its way to TikTok. Along with constant moderation and new verification forms, we can tell you Twitter isn't going to be the same anymore. That's a wrap for this video.
Okay, so I had another question about Judaism.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so one of the things that I've always wondered about is,
what's your take on Jordan Peterson accusing Qantas of hypocrisy and propaganda?
99.9% of bricklayers are men. Should we have quotas for women?
And do you think Elon Musk will be able to clean up Twitter? Let us know in the comments below.
The important thing about this is that it means there's no dead zones anywhere in the world for your cell phone.
Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.